I'm going to make this very brief, but Mark 16, 9 through 20, there's actually 5 different endings to the Gospel of Mark, and so a question here is which one, if any, concluded the Gospel, and for the sake of time, we're only going to focus on the 2 major endings. Some manuscripts, the early manuscripts, the earliest ones, end this at 16:8, known as the short ending, or the SE. Then they, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome, went out and ran from the tomb, for terror and bewilderment had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. Period. End of story. The angel had just spoken to them and said, "Go and tell Jesus' disciples that he will meet them in Galilee. He's been raised from the dead." And they don't do this. Jesus' resurrection occurs before Mark 16:8, but there's no appearances by the resurrected Jesus to any of the disciples. And so a number of scribes added endings to this gospel, and by far the most common one is one that ends at 16:20. We're going to skip through some of this and look at the juicier text, verses 17 and 18. "These signs will accompany those who believe. In my name they will drive out demons. They will speak in new languages. They will pick up snakes with their hands, and whatever poison they drink will not harm them. They will place their hands on the sick, and they will be well." Now, there's some people who take this to an extreme and I think go beyond even what the interpretation of this text is. They're known as West Virginia snake handlers. And here you can see one group. I actually had some of my students go to one of these Appalachian churches and met with a pastor in his home. This was just a couple years ago. He said, "Do you really handle poisonous snakes?" And this guy is sitting in a rocking chair, and he pulls out from a box underneath his chair a rattlesnake. And if I were there, I would have passed out. I mean, I have a deathly fear of snakes. But here we have the snakes where they're handling them, and apparently one guy was not real lucky at one point. But then this guy is not lucky at all. That's all I want to show you. I won't show you more of those pictures. But Mark 16, I think the evidence points in one direction, that these 12 verses were added later. The earliest witnesses don't have it. It doesn't fit Mark's style of writing. No doctrinal issues are at stake because the resurrection of Jesus still occurs, just no resurrection appearances. And the material seems to be taken largely from the other Gospels.